Welcome to the Quiet Strength Podcast, Fathers in a Failing World. I'm Giacomo Knox. We live in a time when the role of fathers is often misunderstood, sometimes ignored, and occasionally even ridiculed. Yet throughout history, strong fathers, sometimes loud but often quiet, have held families, communities, and entire civilizations together. This podcast explores that quiet strength. Each episode brings together thoughtful conversations about fatherhood, responsibility, faith, forgiveness, and the challenges men face in raising the next generation. Some of these conversations are inspired by research, history, and emerging technology that helps us explore important new ideas in new ways. This is an independent production, built by people who believe that strong families and strong fathers still matter. As the show grows, we are always interested in connecting with organizations and partners who want to help us support meaningful conversations about fatherhood and legacy. But at the heart of every episode is a simple question. What does it mean to be a good father in a world that sometimes feels like it's falling apart? This is the Quiet Strength Podcast. Let's begin.
If you look at the statistics, infants born into homes without a father are 4 times more likely to die in their first 28 days of life. 4 times. I mean, it's just a staggering number that tells us a father's presence isn't just, a nice societal bonus or an extra set of hands.
Right.
It is a literal biological lifeline.
It really is, and it completely rewrites how we typically view parenting roles. Because historically, society has liked putting fathers into a very neat, easily digestible box.
Yeah. Go to work, provide financially, maybe play catch on the weekend.
Exactly. Protect the house, and that's it.
Yeah.
But when you step into the world of developmental psychology or, genetics and rigorous behavioral data, that old paradigm just shatters.
It really does.
We are looking at a landscape of paternal impact that is surprisingly vast and, like you said, deeply biological.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are unpacking the massive and honestly surprising impact of fatherhood. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out exactly what happens when fathers are absent, and then look at the profound biological and psychological benefits that occur when they are present.
And most importantly, we want to extract highly practical, skill-building advice for any new dads out there looking to step up.
Right. So whether you are a new parent desperately seeking a roadmap, an educator trying to understand your students, or just someone fascinated by human development, this is going to completely reframe how you view the role of a father.
We are synthesizing a pretty dense stack of sources today to get to the bottom of this.
Oh, yeah. A lot of ground to cover.
We're looking at statistical data from the National Fatherhood Initiative, a rigorous methodological review from the PMC on causal effects, policy briefs from the Urban Institute, behavioral insights from Psychology Today.
And even a religious perspective on the cultural role of fathers from the American Life League. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're seeing how a father's presence is vital, but to really grasp the value of that presence, we have to start by looking at the baseline reality of his absence.
Unfortunately, yes.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau data in our sources, 1 in 4 children in the U.S. live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home.
1 in 4. And what we need to examine is how that void manifests, particularly in the psychological development of boys and young men.
Right.
When we look at the behavioral data from Psychology Today and the broader syntheses on father absence, a very distinct, honestly tragic pattern emerges.
Yeah.
Boys raised without positive male role models often default to this culturally ingrained stoicism.
The whole be a man thing,
Okay.
right? That old idea of just stuffing emotions into compartments. You don't cry, you don't ask for help, you just suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah.
But how does the physical absence of a father actually trigger that specific psychological response?
Well, it comes down to modeling. Learning to process complex emotions like grief or anxiety or, a profound disappointment. It isn't innate.
It's a learned skill.
Right. It's a learned skill. If a boy doesn't have a father fetch in the home, modeling how to feel frustrated without becoming violent or how to be sad without losing control. That boy just doesn't learn the skill.
Oh, wow.
They retreat into a profound emotional vacancy. Without a safe model for processing, they numb themselves.
Which usually means screens, right?
Yeah, they retreat into the world of technology.
Yeah.
So video game addiction, endless internet scrolling, easily accessible online pornography. Or their unexpressed, unprocessed emotions sort of seep out sideways.
Like as outward aggression and hostility.
Exactly.
Which leads to some of the more terrifying statistics in our stack.
Yeah, it does.
The data looking at adolescent behavior shows that young men from fatherless homes are 279% more likely to carry guns and deal drugs than their peers who live with their fathers.
279%.
But I have to push back here for a second. Is that behavioral spike purely because the father is absent? Or is that because fatherless homes are overwhelmingly single-income homes?
That's a fair point.
Like, are we just measuring the stress of poverty and calling it a fatherhood issue?
It is a vital question, and it's exactly why researchers have to be so careful. But the data from the National Fatherhood Initiative and similar sociological studies, they actively control for socioeconomic status.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even when you compare a fatherless home and a two-parent home with the exact same income level, the behavioral spike in outward aggression and risk-taking remains.
So the void isn't just financial.
No, it's deeply psychological.
Okay, it sounds like emotional vacancy in young men is like building a house without a foundation.
I like that.
You know, you can have all the money to build a really nice-looking house, but without that underlying structural integrity, that emotional processing model, the invisible stress eventually causes the walls to crack.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it. And it's fascinating to look at how different cultural lenses try to understand and solve this void.
Right.
For example, the American Life League approaches this from a traditional religious standpoint.
Right.
Now, I want to be super clear here for you listening. We are not taking a side on this or endorsing this viewpoint. We are just impartially reporting the ideas contained in the original source material.
Absolutely. We just want to look at all the angles.
Right. So, while their view on masculinity isn't a universal one, their perspective argues that modern fatherless boys are caught in a massive cultural crossfire.
What does that crossfire look like in their view?
Well, on one side, they suggest boys face a societal repression of traditional masculinity.
Yeah.
So normal male energy or boisterousness is treated as something to be feared or, medicated.
Okay.
But on the other side, because nature abhors a vacuum, these boys are lured by the toxic masculinity promoted by the internet manosphere.
Oh.
This online subculture equates manhood with domination, taking power, and treating human relationships as purely transactional.
Right. So their argument is that without a physically present father to guide them and model healthy strength, these boys wildly oscillate between fearing their own potential and expressing it destructively.
Yes. It's a very unstable dynamic.
It's a tragic pendulum swing, honestly. If a positive father figure isn't there in the physical world to show what healthy masculinity actually looks like, the internet algorithm is more than happy to feed a confused teenager a very distorted, aggressive version of manhood to fill that void.
Exactly. The internet basically becomes the surrogate father, and the results are often disastrous.
Okay, so we're seeing how a father's absence leaves this massive psychological crater in young men. But if we reverse engineer that, it implies a father's presence is doing heavy, invisible lifting from day one.
Very heavy lifting.
Does this impact actually start before they're old enough to even have behavioral issues?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go back to that infant mortality statistic we started with. 4 times higher for infants with absent fathers. How is that even physically possible?
It sounds wild, I know.
Right, because here's where it gets really interesting to me. If the mother is the one providing the breast milk, the womb, and the physical nourishment, why does the biological presence of the father alter a baby's mortality rate so drastically? Is it just having an extra set of hands to change diapers and manage sleep deprivation?
It's much deeper than that.
Yeah.
Is there a unique psychological safety net? Yes. Because the father's presence drastically alters the mother's biology, which in turn acts as a protective shield for the infant.
Wait, really? Her biology changes?
It's a cascading biological effect. When an expectant or new mother feels genuinely supported, and I mean not just having someone to split household chores, but feeling emotionally and physically secure with a committed partner, her internal stress response drops.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, her levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone, significantly decrease.
So a lower stress environment in the mother translates to a healthier fetal environment. and subsequently a more stable environment for a fragile newborn.
Yes. High maternal stress and depressive symptoms are directly linked to premature births, lower birth weights, and complications that drive up infant mortality.
That makes total sense.
The involved father acts as a literal biological buffer against that stress. But what's even more fascinating is that the father's biology is changing too.
No way.
Yeah. Our sources detail some incredible genetic and hormonal mechanisms. For example, researchers study the AVPR1A gene, which influences the hormone vasopressin in the brain.
Vasopressin, how does that work in this context?
So similar to how oxytocin functions in mothers to induce labor and bonding, vasopressin in fathers activates the brain's reward centers when they protect and nurture their partner and offspring.
Okay.
It promotes paternal trust, empathy, and social bonding. When a father holds his newborn, his neurochemistry actually shifts. Biology is literally wiring his brain to find the act of sticking around and investing in his family intrinsically rewarding.
Wait, so the dad's brain is literally getting drugged by his own hormones to care.
Basically, yeah.
He isn't just a backup babysitter. He is a biologically primed protector. The neurochemistry is actively working to ensure he doesn't just walk away.
That's the perfect way to phrase it.
Yeah.
He is biologically primed. And that mutual biological investment creates a resilient ecosystem for the infant to survive those critical first 28 days.
Okay, so we have this amazing biological foundation in infancy. But babies grow up, they go to school, and they face the complexities of the world.
They do.
Let's trace how this early paternal presence translates into cognitive and academic milestones. Because I think the general assumption here usually revolves around homework.
Right, just helping with math.
Yeah, like if a dad is present, he helps with flashcards, and therefore the kid gets a better grade on a Tuesday math pop quiz. Is it really that simple?
It's actually much more complex. And this raises an important point about how we measure academic success. The PMC methodological review in our stack is brilliant because it uses rigorous models like sibling fixed effects and growth curve models to prove actual causation, not just correlation.
Hold on, let me stop you there. Sibling fixed effects, does that mean researchers look at two kids in the exact same family?
Yes.
Like they see how a father's changing presence, like maybe he leaves the home or goes to prison while one kid is in middle school and the other is a toddler, affected one sibling differently than the other.
That's exactly it. By looking within the same family, researchers can isolate the father's impact from outside variables.
Like the neighborhood or the school.
Right, the quality of their local school or even the family's overall genetic baseline. It proves that the father's presence is the active ingredient causing the change.
Wow.
And what they found is a fascinating nuance. A father's presence doesn't necessarily manifest in dramatically higher raw scores on a standardized reading or math test.
Really? I would have assumed more hands-on help with homework equals higher test scores across the board.
You'd think so, but no.
Mm-hmm.
The strongest causal effect of a father's presence is actually on overall educational attainment.
Meaning what?
Meaning long-term goals, like high school graduation rates or going to college, and what researchers call social-emotional adjustment. It's less about raw intellect or memorization. It is much more about the behavioral regulation, the patience, and the resilience required to sit in a classroom, navigate complex social environments, and not give up when a subject gets hard.
I see. So if cognitive test scores are the hardware of a student, their raw processing power, a father's presence actually helps build the soft skills operating system.
I love that analogy. Explain how you see that playing out.
Well, if you have a kid with great hardware, let's say they have a naturally high IQ, but they lack the software for emotional regulation, what happens when they fail a test for the first time?
Right.
Without that resilience operating system, the hardware crashes. They get frustrated, they act out, or they just quit school entirely. The father is the one installing the software that keeps the computer running all the way to high school graduation.
That is spot on. It is the operating system that prevents the crash.
Yeah.
Now, we also have to look at how socioeconomic factors challenge a father's ability to install that operating system, especially when he doesn't live in the home.
That's a huge factor.
Huge. Urban Institute data shows that non-residential fathers who are low income are about half as likely to read aloud to young children or help older kids with homework compared to higher income non-residential fathers.
So the economic strain limits the quality of the involvement.
Exactly.
Like if a dad is working 3 jobs just to pay child support, he physically and mentally doesn't have the bandwidth to engage in those specific educational practices compared to a dad who has more financial breathing room.
Yes, the economic precarity takes a massive toll on the type of engagement impossible. But this also brings up a critical point about the limits of substitution.
What do you mean?
Well, we can't just sub in any adult male figure into the home and expect the exact same operating system to be installed. The data highlights a phenomenon evolutionary psychologists call the Cinderella effect.
Meaning what, exactly? That step-parents are inherently wicked?
No, not at all. But it highlights that simply introducing a stepfather into the home does not automatically close this academic or behavioral gap.
Oh, interesting.
Yet, in evolutionary psychology terms, an adult male often doesn't have the same biological drive or historical attachment to invest in a child that doesn't share his genetics.
Right.
If the integration of a stepfather isn't handled incredibly carefully, with a lot of intention and therapy, it can sometimes worsen the child's behavioral issues.
Really? Because of the new dynamic?
Exactly, because it introduces new authority conflicts without the underlying foundation of deep historic trust.
That makes a lot of sense.
The biological and historical bond with a father carries a unique weight that isn't easily substituted by just checking a demographic box of adult male in the house.
It's about the specific, cultivated attachment, not just a warm body.
Precisely.
So, knowing these massive stakes, the infant mortality buffer, the behavioral void, the academic resilience, we need a playbook.
Let's do it.
For the new dads listening, or anyone supporting a new dad, how do we turn this mountain of research into actionable skills? What does stepping up actually look like in practice?
The sources give us several highly practical, evidence-based takeaways for fathers to build that engagement. The first one starts before the baby is even born. Antenatal preparation.
Okay.
Fathers who actively learn infant care skills before the birth build what researchers call parenting self-efficacy.
Parenting self-efficacy, so a belief in your own competence.
Yes. If a dad takes a class and learns how to swaddle, bathe, and soothe a crying newborn before the baby arrives, he feels competent.
Right.
That early confidence is a massive predictor of his involvement later. Fathers with high self-efficacy are far more engaged when the baby is 6 months or a year old.
That makes total psychological sense. Confidence breeds engagement. Because if you are handed a fragile newborn and you feel like you're going to break them because you literally don't know how to support their neck, your natural human instinct is to back away.
Right, you hand the baby back to the mother and let her take over.
Exactly. But if you've practiced the mechanics, you step in. You become an active participant.
And once you are an active participant, you can introduce the second major takeaway, which is the power of play.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
And specifically, fathers tend to engage in more rough-and-tumble physical play with their toddlers and children.
Oh, wait, does wrestling on the living room carpet actually do anything developmentally, or is it just a way to burn off energy before bedtime?
It actually does something profound. It is a unique interaction that heavily develops a child's social and emotional boundaries.
Really? Wrestling?
Think about the mechanics of roughhousing. A child is learning the physical limits of their own body. They're learning how to read nonverbal cues, understanding the line between a playful squeeze and a hurtful one.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
And most importantly, they are learning how to de-escalate their own arousal. If the game gets too intense, they have to learn how to pause, calm down, and reset. That is the literal definition of emotional regulation.
Wow. So tossing the kid on the bed or having a tickle fight is actually advanced emotional training.
Yes.
You are teaching them how to experience high stress and high excitement and then safely bring their nervous system back down to baseline. I love that. It validates something that feels so instinctual to many dads.
It is instinctual, and it is vital. Now contrast that physical play with our next takeaway, which is cognitive play.
Okay.
When we look at shared reading, like story time before bed, studies show that fathers have distinctly different reading styles than mothers.
Really?
Fathers naturally ask far more open-ended questions during this story.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, instead of just pointing to an illustration and asking a factual question like, what color is the dog? A dad is more likely to pause the story and ask, why do you think the dog is running away? Or, what would you do if you were in that forest?
Oh, that's really interesting.
It subtly shifts the cognitive load onto the child. It challenges their critical thinking and expands their language skills in a very distinct conversational way.
That is fascinating. Just a slight shift in how you read a board book changes the entire developmental outcome for the child.
Yeah.
But wait, so if a dad is doing the physical roughhousing and he's challenging the kid intellectually during story time with all these open-ended questions, what happens if his parenting style totally clashes with the mother's? Because, wrestling before bed might drive a stressed out mom crazy.
And that brings us to the crucial concept of maternal gate opening. This is about the family dynamic as a whole.
Okay, gate opening.
Studies show that a mother's reaction to the father's parenting style heavily dictates his long-term involvement. When mothers actively support, trust, and validate the dad's parenting, even if it's a bit rougher, louder, or just different from how she would do it, dads remain significantly more engaged over the years.
It's a team sport. If one player is constantly critiquing the other's form or standing over their shoulder sighing every time they put the diaper on slightly crooked, the second player is eventually just going to leave the field.
They will. They will absolutely retreat, and we already discussed the devastating impact of that retreat. Both parents have to make space for the other's unique contributions.
Right.
And this is where that American Life League source actually offers an interesting cultural reframing tool for men trying to understand their place on that field.
How so? And again, just a reminder for you listening, we're just reporting their perspective impartially here.
Absolutely. Well, looking through their religious lens, they advise men to reframe their role by utilizing the biblical model of St. Joseph.
Okay.
In this traditional view, male headship is radically redefined. It is not defined as having power, making all the rules, or asserting domination over the family. Instead, it is defined as absolute service and sacrifice for them.
So what does this all mean? It sounds like whether you are looking at it through the lens of evolutionary biology, rigorous sociological data, or ancient religious models, we need to radically redefine what involvement means to new dads.
Yes.
It's not just clocking hours in the same room while looking at your phone to make sure the kid doesn't touch an electrical outlet.
Right.
It is the intentionality of the roughhousing to teach emotional regulation. It's the open-ended questions during story time. It's breaking the stuff-it-down stoic stereotype to actually be emotionally available and model how to process sadness or anger. It's viewing the entire role as an act of profound service rather than just, a biological obligation.
That synthesis hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It requires immense intentionality and a willingness to be completely emotionally present, which we now know physically wires the father's brain to bond even deeper.
We have covered some serious ground today.
We really have.
From the stark reality of the 1 in 4 kids growing up with that fatherly void and the behavioral struggles, the technology retreat, and the aggression that follow.
Yeah.
We've looked at the incredible biological buffer an involved dad provides, literally lowering maternal cortisol and utilizing his own vasopressin to improve infant survival rates right out of the gate.
Amazing stuff.
We've seen how a father writes the soft skills operating system for a child's academic resilience, and we've laid out a practical playbook for dads to step into this role with real practice confidence. You, the listener, whether you are a parent, a partner, or a friend, now know the profound, measurable power of fatherhood to shape the trajectory of a human life.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over.
All right, let's hear it.
We've established that consistent fatherhood has a profound, scientifically measurable, biological, and sociological impact on the trajectory of a human life.
Right.
If that is an undeniable fact, how might our modern workplaces and societal structures need to radically evolve? Imagine what our communities would look like if society was structured so that fatherhood was treated not just as a secondary parenting role or a weekend hobby to fit in around a 50-hour work week, but as a primary public health imperative.
Oh, wow. That is a massive question. It really forces you to look at how we structure parental leave, work expectations, and family life as a whole.
Yeah, it does.
Because the science shows us that while there isn't a printed instruction manual for raising a human, the manual is written in our biology, our psychology, and our everyday actions. You don't need a manual. You just need to be intentionally, relentlessly present.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. For more information or to become a sponsor, please go to our website at www.newberryfilmworks.com. We'll get right back to you. Stay tuned for the next episode, coming up very, very soon.